This is the Barker Historical Museum located on 7 Day Street in Fredonia, New York, 14063. Phone number 716-672-2114. And today is November 29th, 2001. Today we are here with Lawrence Vogel. How are you, Lawrence?
Fine.
Would you like to tell us your name, even though I just said it?
Lawrence H. Vogel,
And your birth date?
17th of November, 1918.
And your current address?
What is my current address? Same. What is it?
319 Washington Avenue?
No.
Yeah, in Dunkirk,
Right.
New York. Okay. The wars in which you served?
World War II and the Korean War.
Okay. And your branch of service?
Quartermaster.
And you were in the Army?
Right. Army.
Okay. Do you remember your highest rank?
Master Sergeant.
Master Sergeant. I guess as we get into this interview, I was wondering if you'd like to tell us your most vivid memory of your wartime experience.
Well, the most vivid would be when we landed at Normandy and the experiences I had through the European theater of operation, which included Sicily also. And then we landed at Sicily and, pardon me, North Africa, Sicily, and then Normandy, World War II, yeah.
What stuck out about Normandy?
Yeah, not much. Just run like hell so you didn't get hit.
Did you run pretty fast?
Fast as I could.
What can you tell us about the military life and culture? Was there a difference between?
Well, it's a lot different than from civilian society, but I enjoyed it.
Did you? How come?
Because when I was younger, I wanted to get in the military, really.
Mm-hmm.
And I enlisted, and that's how they got me into the service.
How long did you serve?
Well, I guess overall, I think it was 22 years. It was 5 regular Army service, and the rest of it, 17 years in the National Guard.
Okay. What about, in talking about military life, what were the rations like? And were they different between World War II and the Korean conflict?
Well, World War II was altogether different.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we were activated, and then we were sent overseas. See, I was overseas for 5 years during World War II. Whereas in the Korean, I didn't get into active service.
Oh.
Well, I was activated, but I never went overseas.
Where did you stay during the Korean War? Do you remember?
I think most of the time was down to Fort Dix, New Jersey.
Okay.
And I think later on we went down to Florida. I forget, there was some military outfit down in Florida. We stayed there. I think it was Fort Jackson. I'm not really positive.
Okay. Did you get wounded? Were you wounded?
Well, later on I found a bullet hole through my field jacket. That's the closest I come to.
Was that World War II?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I got that at Normandy.
Oh. So it was close, huh?
Yeah, you had to run like hell.
When you were in the European theater during World War II, what were the living conditions like? Were you always on the move, or did you sleep in tents?
Most of it, well, quite a couple of years probably were in England where we trained. And then we landed in Normandy, and we went through the whole campaign, and I ended up in Czechoslovakia.
Oh.
Czechoslovakia.
Wow.
And then after that, we went back to the States, and I stayed in the service. And then during the Korean, I was activated for, I think, about 2.5 years. But I didn't go out of the States during the Korean War.
Right.
I think most of my time was down at Fort Dix and Fort Bliss, Texas.
So during World War II, you experienced combat, but in the Korean War you didn't.
Yeah, you do that when you hit 3 landings.
Yeah.
You're in combat.
What were the landings like? Did you?
So, the what?
The landings. What were the landings like?
They're real smooth.
Mm-hmm.
You jumped out of the boats and run like hell through the one little bit of water, and then once you got inland, why, then you get to a routine process.
Were you on the boats very long?
Yeah, it took us about 2 weeks to get across. We weren't on one of the. No, I'll take that back. We were on the Queen Mary when we first went over. It took us maybe 5 or 6 days. There was 30,000 troops on that ship.
Oh my, must have been a big boat.
Yes, the Queen Mary is a big boat. And then during the Korean, where did I spend my time? Probably down at Fort Dix too. But I didn't go overseas during the Korean War.
Right. Do you remember what kind of boats you were on when you did the landing? Did they have a name?
Queen Mary.
Oh, but after that, because you said you did 3 landings. Were there other, do you remember the other boats, or? I mean, it's okay if you don't.
Incidentally, and just in case, a lot of people don't know this, I don't think. There was 2 divisions of troops on the Queen Mary.
Oh,
There was a steady line going back and forth the meals when you had 30,000 troops on one ship. A lot of people don't know that that ship could hold that many, but it did.
yeah. I didn't know that.
And it was a 5-day trip across. And during the Korean War, I was down in, I think down either, somewhere in Virginia or North Carolina, I don't recall it right off, but I didn't go overseas during the Korean War.
Right, right.
See, they yanked me in for 2 years for the National Guard.
Yeah.
But I finished out my 22 years overall service.
Did you make any friends in either?
Oh yeah, I made a lot of friends,
Yeah.
but you had to leave them.
Mm-hmm.
It was nice. Actually, it was nice. It was. I enjoyed myself. I think maybe a lot of people didn't, but I did. I enjoyed myself in the service.
In both World War II and Korea, or just in World War II?
Both.
Both.
I mean, I enjoyed myself in the Army. Otherwise, I wouldn't have joined, see?
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to wait to be drafted. I wanted to get in and see what it was like, which I did. I enjoyed it.
How old were you when
21.
you started?
Yeah.
Oh. Do you still keep in touch with your friends that you made?
Very few.
Very few. Do you want to mention any of their names?
They're all, oh gosh, I can't think of any of their names. There was so many. And, tell you the truth, I really can't think of a name of one of them right now.
Well, it's kind of a little pressure with the camera, huh?
Oh yeah. See, but the most experience I liked was when we were down in Czechoslovakia. Most of the soldiers stayed in homes.
Oh.
Luckily, I got a nice home. Boy, the food was great and everything. I really enjoyed that.
So you stayed with a family? Did they have children?
Yeah, they had, well, they were grown-up children. I think they had 2 boys and 1 daughter. But it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed my service.
What kind of food did you get?
Good food.
Good food?
Good, wholesome food.
Different or similar to what we have here in the States?
Well, similar to a lot, but most of it was simple food, but it was good. I had no complaints.
Was their home different than the types of homes we have here?
No, they're similar to ours.
Yeah.
Like the family, I was with a family, they had the husband and wife. They had one son and one daughter and 2 dogs. A Dachshund.
Oh, dachshunds, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember their names?
No.
No.
I couldn't remember. I don't know. The other day I was thinking I'd better look over my stuff and see. I'm pretty sure I had names in there and everything, but I'll have to check with my son George. See, I hope he's got that stuff here.
Okay.
But I enjoyed my service in the Army.
Yeah.
I jumped in the water 3 times, but that was nothing. I got out of it. A lot of poor guys didn't get out of it, but fortunately I did.
What was your least favorite thing?
So,
Your least favorite? I mean, you were just talking about your favorite, one of your favorite things being the people you stayed with. What were your least favorite? I mean, if you want to share it.
no, we only stayed, I think, in England. I think we stayed at a post or a fort over in England.
Mm-hmm.
But in Czechoslovakia and mostly overseas, we stayed with families,
Right.
and very enjoyable.
Mm.
No problem. They're just like us,
Oh, yeah.
but I'm glad for the experience, really.
Yeah. Did you have any favorite musical hits?
Musical hits?
Yeah, music. Is there any music you remember from that time that you liked, or?
Yeah, mostly, I guess a lot of people will call it hybrid music, you know, opera and stuff like that.
Right.
And the modern hits, I mean, I like those too every time they got, you know, the hit parade and all that stuff we used to have. They were great.
Inez wrote me a little note asking me to mention about if you would tell us about how you met your wife.
That was the greatest experience of my life, really. See, when we were over in New England, this was just Nashua, New Hampshire. We stayed in private homes, and I met her at a, what do you call those dances they had, the Army? Gosh, I can't think of the name of it now. But I met her at a dance in Nashua, New Hampshire,
Okay.
and I eventually married her.
Is that a picture of her on the chair?
Huh?
Is that a picture of her on the chair next to you? Underneath there was a little picture. Is that her?
Yeah, that's Helen.
Do you want to hold it up so we can see?
She was in the wax,
What's that?
the waves, Navy.
Oh.
I
Is she
can't think what the wax were. No, not the wax, the waves.
waves?
Yeah, the waves.
Do you know how long she served?
No, 2 years.
2 years?
2 years in the waves.
What did she do?
Oh, what did they do? Oh, she worked mostly as sort of nursing in hospitals and stuff like that down in Washington, D.C. And that was most of their duties, the waves.
Hmm.
Well, the wax too in the Army.
Oh.
No, she was a wonderful person. We got married, had 4 children. And
So-
she died in '92. But we had a good life together.
So she was in the service when you met her as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I met her in a dance. Oh, what the heck was that city I told you in New Hampshire again? It was around the capital of New Hampshire, doggone it. Nashua,
Mm-hmm.
New Hampshire. It's about 30,000 population. And her folks were farm folks, and I met her at a dance, USO dance.
That's it, USO dance.
That did it.
Do you remember what songs you danced to?
Well, she died in 1992.
Mhm.
We had 4 children, one died, but 3 children are still alive. One's in California. One's around Boston, Mass, and George is down in Dunkirk.
Oh,
Now in a good life.
that's good. Inez has also asked me to ask about your rations in combat.
The only action I had in combat was 3 landings. We landed Normandy, 6 o'clock in the morning. I landed with, I was with the 1st U.S. Infantry Division.
Mm-hmm.
Then we made a landing in Sicily, North Africa and Sicily, and then Normandy. So we all know our landings.
But what about the rations? The food
I liked
in
them.
combat?
I liked them.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of them dummies didn't for some. They must have been fussy eaters. It was good food.
Yeah.
Don't let anybody tell you any different. Those rations were real good, solid food. And if anybody says anything against them, you tell them I said he's a nut.
I guess.
See, there was 3 rations, what they call C rations.
Uh-huh.
That was when the troops were out in the field. What the heck was the other one now? I can't think of the other one. C rations was mostly a canned food and dry food, crackers and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That was your lowest type of ration. But, no, the food was great in the Army. Don't let anybody, and if anybody tells you about griping food, he was a fussy eater. It was wholesome food.
Are there any other stories you can think of about your time in service that you want to share with us? Any funny stories or any?
Well, my greatest moment when I met my wife, like I say, in Nashville, New Hampshire, at a dance.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually we got married. But no, they had a lot of activities in the Army, and I enjoyed all of them. I enjoyed the Army, but there was a lot of guys that didn't. Now, why, I can't figure their, I don't know. Somehow or other they were mad because they were drafted. See, I enlisted. I wanted to be in the service. And I had 7 years active. They hooked me back in 40 during the Korean War for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
But that didn't bother me any. And the rest of the years was National Guard.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a good pension out of it.
What did your family think when you enlisted?
Well, during the Korean War, while I was married then,
Mm-hmm.
of course she took it. She was in the waves too.
Mm-hmm.
My wife was in the waves, so she knew what it was all like. And, no, there was no fussing.
Even when you enlisted, when you were a young man?
No,
No.
I was 18 when I enlisted, and I knew they were going to get me. I didn't want to be drafted. See, I wanted to go in by myself and go in the outfit I wanted to go in, which I did.
So you got a choice then.
Mm-hmm. And I got a lot of schooling in the service. I went to quite a few schools in the service, which helped me when I got out of the service.
What did you do when you got out of the service?
I worked in the State Army in Buffalo for 23 years.
Mm-hmm.
Then I was in the National Guard for 20-some years. So I wanted those 3 pensions, which I got. And a lot of guys got up, and I don't know how they're doing now. They're probably in a poorhouse, a lot of them.
And so your family was supportive when you enlisted?
Oh yeah, no problem.
Did you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, actually my original family, there was seven brothers and 1 sister.
Mm-hmm.
But they were all grown up. My twin brother joined the Marines, I joined the Army. I had a brother join the Air Force. And who the heck was the other? There was 4 of us. Army, Navy, Air Force. Oh, one brother was a chaplain.
Oh. In the service?
Yeah.
In the army?
And he had a good parish right till he died at the, oh, what's the name of it, Saint? Parish in West Seneca he started.
Oh, okay.
So he's on his way, he died. Right now, I think I had 2 brothers left. I had 7 brothers and 1 sister.
Not it sounds like a lot of your brothers went into the service, a different branch of the service.
4 of us did.
Mhm. How did your brother like the Marines?
Well, he enjoyed it.
Yeah.
He stayed in the Marines, and when he after the war, he did like I did. He went in the reserves. We got our 3 pensions. That's what I went for. But I enjoyed the service. A lot of guys did, and I can't figure it out.
Maybe they didn't like the food as much as you.
Pardon?
Maybe they didn't like the food as much.
Well, if they did, they lied. The food was good. I don't care what you say. The food was good and wholesome. Let's put it this way. The guys who were in the service had better food than if they were back home in their families. Because it was nourished. Real nourishable food,
Mhm.
not junk food. No, I've got nothing against the service. I
Now,
enjoyed it.
how do you feel that all this has impacted your life?
Well, actually, I say it made my life more enjoyable. All the experiences, places I went. I went through all of Europe, North Africa, Sicily. I couldn't afford any of that.
Why were you in North Africa? Do you remember?
Well, that was the first place we landed in North Africa. I was with the 1st U.S. Infantry Division. And they were first at any landing.
Oh.
And see, the Germans occupied all those territories. And that was the most vulnerable one. I mean, that's the way I looked at it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there wasn't much resistance at all. North Africa, Sicily. But Normandy was a little bit different. A lot of guys got killed during that time. But
What do you remember about Africa? Was it hot or dry or?
it's a beautiful country.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I wouldn't mind living down there if I so desired. But you know, the weather down there is beautiful. There's places there just like ours here, like Tunisia.
Oh.
It's a beautiful country. It's all mountainous. The people were nice. They were mostly French in North Africa. A lot of English, German. But I think most generally I'd say French dominated. But they were nice people. They were very nice to us.
And what about Sicily? Do you
That
remember?
was great too. See, mostly Italians down there in Sicily. But, see, Sicily they call the green pearl of the Mediterranean. It's a beautiful, beautiful island.
Oh.
At the time, there was hardly any manufacturers, mostly agricultural people, religious people, mostly all Catholics down there. I mean, I'm not rubbing the other religions,
Right.
but they were real nice people. I never run across a group of people during my Army service. And they enjoyed us too, I think, too. They were real happy with us. Naturally, we liberated a lot of them.
Yeah.
But no, I enjoyed myself. Of course, a lot of guys were grumbling, but they'd grumble any place.
Did you, in all your travels, did you get up to Germany itself, or?
Oh yeah,
Yeah. What was your impression?
we went through France, Germany, Czechoslovakia. We ended up in Czechoslovakia. That's the tip of Czechoslovakia. They're wonderful people.
Hmm.
Didn't run across any people that hated us.
Did you?
Except maybe the English, when they were over in England.
Did you, when you were, how long, do you know how much time you spent in Germany, or was it very long, or?
Oh, maybe about 6 months. It didn't take us long to get through there, but we stayed there mostly. We ended up in Czechoslovakia.
What were you doing in Czechoslovakia?
Occupation.
Occupation?
There wasn't much fighting. Once we got through Germany, they were the ones that slowed us up. But once we got through that Nazi situation, there was no problem. Everybody welcomed us, really.
What were, so you faced a lot of combat in Germany as well?
No, not
No?
too much. The most combat we had was on the 3 landings, really.
Right.
Of course, there was a few pockets of resistance, but they didn't last too long.
How did you guys usually travel? Did you go by train or car or, tank?
Mostly truck,
Mostly truck.
Army trucks.
Was that comfortable?
Yeah, they went pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jeeps, station wagons, they went safe. But, no, I loved the Army. I stayed in for 23 years.
Mm-hmm.
But most of it, well, let's see, I had about 7 years active during World War II and the Korean War. They called me back. But that didn't bother me any. I was married and had 3 children, and I enjoyed going back. And my wife was with me too. She wasn't with me, but she wasn't against me,
Well.
like a lot of wives would be.
She was supportive.
They're very supportive. And, I enjoyed it.
Do you want to show us your other picture, your other photograph on the chair? The big one?
Oh, that one there.
Here, hold it up so Michael can get a close-up.
That was Fort Bliss, Texas.
Was that Korean or World War II?
World War II, before we went overseas. Training. We trained down there in Fort Bliss. That's right at the Mexican border.
Ah.
We're right across from Fort Bliss was the city of Juarez in Mexico.
Oh.
And, no, very enjoyable down there. And we got a lot of, through? Mm-hmm. We have so you go across the Rio Grande. It's right on the Rio Grande. So once you cross the bridge there, Rio Grande to Juarez, Mexico, everything's real cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Mexico. I don't know what it is now. But for instance, in what the name of that city I was in there, and across from Juarez. Across the American side, you'd pay about $5-7 for a good meal. You go to Juarez, you can get the same meal just about for $2.50. That was the difference.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, we swarmed across those bridges. It was a lot of fun.
Was it easy for you guys to get across, or?
Oh yeah. It cost a nickel to walk over the bridge to Juarez and 10 cents to walk from Juarez to El Paso, Texas. But no, we got a lot of souvenirs and different things down across the Rio Grande.
How long were you there about in Fort Bliss?
Oh, about 6 or 8 months, I think it was. I was glad to get out of there, but it was nice. It was nice duty, really. No, if anybody goes in the service, they got to make their mind to enjoy it. If not, they're in it, and they know they're in it. They should make good use of their time and everything. But a lot of them grumbled and stuff like that. But I think the majority liked it. To tell you the truth.
Yeah. Do you have a message for future generations?
Well, they should enjoy themselves, behave themselves, and stay out of trouble. But that's hard for a lot of Americans. But if you ever do a lot of traveling overseas, you'll see the difference between the American way of life or wherever you're at. Because anywhere you go almost today, it's overpopulated. And that's the difference. But I enjoy it. I don't know about a lot of people didn't, but it's too bad. You're in it, you're there, enjoy yourself. That's the way I look at it. I like the Army service. I stayed in for, well, I had 7 years active duty and the rest was national.
Did you receive any medals or special awards?
No, the occasions didn't arise. The only medals, I guess, when we landed at Normandy, North Africa and Sicily. I was in the ordnance. I wasn't in any infantry or artillery or anything like that. See, most of your medals go to your infantrymen because they're in the front lines. Of course, a lot of them got some medals for different things. And, no, I did my duty and whatever came with it, that was it.
What was your main job? Do you remember? Did you have like a certain specific job that you had to do?
No, I was called the first quartermaster battalion.
Okay.
I don't know if you know anything about a quartermaster battalion.
No, please tell us.
That battalion serves the rest of the troops in the division. And they work hard. And that is to get the food to them, the clothes to them. Like I was in a motorized outfit.
Okay.
We repaired trucks, jeeps, and stuff like that. So then you had the medical outfit. They took care of the medical. There was a medical company, then it became a medical battalion. And that served as all the medical supplies from there for the whole division. At that time, a division was 12,000 troops. So that's a job that keeps stuff like that going.
So you were responsible for doing a lot, helping keep the motorized.
Yeah, I worked repairing trucks and stuff like that. Yeah, I was a motor mechanic. And that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
Trucks.
I don't know about the majority, but I enjoyed my time in the service. I had 7 years active and the rest was National Guards. I stayed in. It's too bad. These kids they got involved and they should have enjoyed themselves, but they fucked it. It's like a lot of kids today. They don't want to serve in a service. I can't figure out why. It's too bad.
Seems to me sometimes people are afraid. So you must have had a lot of courage.
Well, I wouldn't call it courage. I enjoyed myself. I did what I was supposed to do, that's all. And that's what everything, no matter, that's in civilian life too. No matter what you do in civilian life, you do what you're supposed to do the best you can. And that's the way you get anywhere. You got a lot of loafers in civilian life too. Don't ever forget that.
So were you ever afraid? Were there times you were afraid?
Not really.
No. Not even at Normandy?
No.
Just run, huh?
You did your job. A lot of people were killed, a lot of people were wounded. I got a bullet through my jacket, but I didn't even know I had that till I got back to my service. But, no. I can imagine a lot of people that didn't want to get in the service, but when they got in there, they should have enjoyed themselves, did the best they could, but I think a lot of them bucked it and got in trouble. That's the problem. I enjoyed my service. I had a lot of fun doing it. I got paid for it. What more could you ask? The food was good. Now, if anybody complains to you about Army food, you tell them they're nuts. That's the best food in the world. If anybody has got a gripe against the Army food, they're fussy eaters. They would knock any kind of, wherever they're eating, they would knock it in.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap it up?
No, I enjoyed my service. Matter of fact, I would have liked to stayed in for 20 years active duty,
Mhm.
but during the Korean War, I was married and I was activated for 3
Mhm.
years, and there was no problem.
Okay,
I enjoyed it.
well, that's nice. Well, thank you very much,
You're welcome.
and thank you.